Hello everybody! In this video lecture, we will cover histology slides of different tissue types. And so we will pretty much have lots of pictures over here, and same or similar pictures will be used for your second lab exam. Okay, so here, the first picture, you see simple squamous epithelium lining the air sacs or alveoli of the lungs. So the important feature of this tissue is one layer of cells over here. Oh, sorry. Right, so here we have one layer of cells. And let me get my pen so I can do it better. If it works, yes. And you see the cells are pretty flat, right? So here's the cells. So that's what you need to do. You need to recognize this type of tissue, and you need to know that it's simple squamous epithelium. Okay, so over here, you see also simple squamous epithelium, but this time this is slide of the kidney. And this is what is important to remember. When we're looking at these histology slides, we're not really looking at tissues, we're looking at organs. And organs are made from more than one tissue type. That's why it's important to look at this slide and see where exactly my simple squamous is, and that's where your simple squamous would be, right? So here, this structure is called glomerulus, and what lines the wall of glomerulus are simple squamous cells. Because actually this tube, you see another tube over here, and this tube is made from simple cuboidal epithelium. Right, so that's a simple cuboidal, and this is simple squamous. So again, here's our simple squamous. What is inside? This is capillaries. It's called glomerulus inside. So we're looking just on this structure shown over here, right, and nucleus inside. So on your lab exam, actually, you will have a pointer, and you will need to identify tissue at the pointer. So, for example, if we have, if the pointer points to, oops, that's not what I want. This, right? Hold on a sec. Yeah, if a pointer points right here, right, then you will identify simple squamous. However, if the pointer points to this part, then you identify it as a simple cuboidal. See these cuboidal cells? They're way bigger than squamous. Right? And why we have two different type of epithelium here? Because that's not tissue, as I said. This is organ. Trying to get this eraser and erase all this stuff. Okay, here we have definitely simple cuboidal epithelium, and it's also from the kidneys. So this is the tube of the kidney, and here we have our cuboidal cells. And this dark point inside, those are nuclei, right? So nucleus, one nucleus per cell. So simple cuboidal. Simple columnar. So that's our free surface. That's a free surface. And this line over here is a basement membrane. And here we have our columnar cells, right? And nucleus inside. And as I already said, pretty much here's a tube. So here's a bigger tubes. And those are also columnar cells. Right. Okay, so simple columnar. Next one is ciliated pseudostratified columnar epithelium. So again, when we look for epithelial tissue, we either looking close to the free surface. So here's our free surface, or maybe some ducts. So here I have some duct, and maybe this is some kind of tube. But this is definitely not our pseudostratified. This is simple cuboidal here. But this is our pseudostratified. So we have our basement membrane, and here's our epithelium. And it looks like we have more than one layer, but actually we don't. It just cells has different height. And what is on the surface of the cell? This is the cilia. So it's a ciliated pseudostratified columnar epithelium. Okay. Let me just erase all this stuff and get to the next slide. This epithelium is non-keratinized stratified squamous. Right, so where's my epithelium? Okay, so I'm looking again, where's my free surface? And this is my free surface. Right, this is the connective tissue, so all this stuff is connective tissue, and from this point to this point, right, this is my stratified squamous epithelium, and because I see nuclei even on a very top layer of the cell, it's not keratinized. Right, okay, non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. Okay, so this is our non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. Next slide is stratified columnar epithelium. As I said in our previous lecture, this is very rare epithelium, but where would we find it? Well, stuff over here, this is a connective tissue, so that's not epithelial tissue, but this is this tube here, and another one right here. We have at least 2 layers of cells, and they look like columns with the nucleus inside, so that's stratified columnar. Okay, here we go. Transitional epithelium. Well, what to tell you about transitional epithelium? Try to remember how it looks, because it does look like stratified, right? So here our basement membrane, and here's the epithelial tissue, right? So it's look like stratified cuboidal, right? So this does look like a little cubes for me, but this is a part of the, I believe, like ureter, and ureter covered by transitional epithelium. So you guys try to remember how transitional epithelium look like, so you can recognize it during your exam. Areolar connective tissue. Well, I think this is the one that is easy to recognize. So you see lots of fibers, and those those darker fibers. Let's start with dark. Those are elastic, right? So here's the elastic fiber, and this one you see like dark. Or this one, those are elastic fibers. Now the thick fibers over here, those are collagen fibers. And cells, like this cell, and this one, and that one, those are fibroblast cells. Also, you see white blood cells, so they're bigger, like this one. And we do have reticular fibers. We cannot see on this photograph, but it's pretty loose. You see lots of fibers, some cells here and there. So that's how areolar connective tissue look like. Right. Next one, adipose tissue. Well, adipose tissue is connective tissue proper, and it's also loose. So over here you see, like, let's say this one, that one adipocyte. Here probably another adipocyte. Here's another one. Inside we have huge vacuole that filled with a fat, and here's the nucleus, a little bit of cytoplasm here and there, but that's adipose tissue. Okay, let me pick up my eraser. I have trouble picking up those erasers and pens. No, does not work. Here we go. Reticular connective tissue. This is how a slide of our reticular connective tissue look like. And over here, again, what you guys can see, those are our reticular fibers. They short and they branch, right? So this. So again, just please try to remember how reticular connective tissue look like. Dense irregular connective tissue. Yeah, that's a very good slide here because if the pointer points to this area, right? So this area over here, this is epithelial tissue. And this is stratified squamous keratinized because that's the dead cells on the top. So that's a keratin. So again, this part of the slide is not dense irregular. This is actually photomicrograph of the skin, and skin is an organ. So it's made from epithelial tissue, and what we have underneath, this part over here, this is our dense irregular connective tissue. And this is pretty low magnification, 100x, but you see these collagen fibers running in all directions. So right, like this. So that's our, and you know, some running this way. So they're not parallel. So that's how dense irregular connective tissue look like, and it make part of the dermis of the skin. So this one is epidermis, this is dermis, right? So that's a dermis. And this is where we have our dense irregular connective tissue. So that's dense irregular. This is dense regular connective tissue. And here's the cells. This one cell, another cell. Don't confuse this one with muscles. So here's our fibroblast cells. And this is the nucleus of fibroblast, right? Here's the nucleus. And here's our collagen fibers. Let me take a red one. So here's the collagen fibers. And they all run parallel to each other in one direction. So that's why it's called dense regular connective tissue. Okay. This is another dense regular connective tissue, but it's a yellow elastic. So what do we have over here? So those cells, let's say this one here, here, and the dark spot inside the nucleus. Those are fibroblasts. And then we have collagen fibers. So here they're running in the same direction, still parallel to each other. So that's our, again, another picture of dense regular. It's just different type. But all you need to identify just dense regular connective tissue. This is a hyaline cartilage. And in the hyaline cartilage, you see those chondrocytes, right? Oh, okay. That's a chondrocyte. That's a chondrocyte. Here's another chondrocyte. And what's surrounding these chondrocytes is this lacuna. Right? So we have several lacunae. So here's a good lacuna. And this is cell inside this lacuna. And also in the hyaline cartilage, you see this structure. And this is a connective tissue. covering the hyaline cartilage, called perichondrium. Peri means around and chondria means cartilage. So that's a perichondrium, like all these tissues. That's a different tissue. This is our hyaline cartilage. So that's a hyaline cartilage. This is elastic cartilage, and in elastic cartilage you will see lots of these dark fibers, right? So this elastic fibers. So that's all dark stuff here. Those are elastic fibers, and we do have these chondrocytes inside the lacuna. So here's another lacuna, chondrocytes, and this covering over here, perichondrium again. So elastic cartilage. It looks pretty dark. So, and this is fibrocartilage. Actually, this slide from Norca histology slides, and this cartilage looks a lot like hyaline cartilage. So for you to tell the difference, you will not see perichondrium, right? No perichondrium, but you see this matrix over here. That's all matrix. Chondrocytes inside the lacuna. So, fibrocartilage. I'm reminding you that we have three types of cartilage. We have hyaline cartilage, elastic, and fibrocartilage. That's blood, connective tissue as well. It's a fluid connective tissue, and those are small cells, many of them. Those are erythrocytes or red blood cells. The bigger ones, like this, those are white blood cells. Let's see if we have any platelets. I do. Oh, right here. I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but these little dots here, those are platelets. And here's another one right there. And what is in between the cells? That's a plasma, right? So that's a plasma. So blood, that's fluid connective tissue with erythrocytes, leukocytes, platelets, and plasma. Nervous tissue, you can see the neuron. So that's a body of neuron. Here's somewhere nucleus with nucleolus. And we have all these processes here. And, well, each neuron has only one axon. And it's hard to tell me is this one or that one, but one of this is axon, and all these lines here, those are dendrites, right? If it's not easy to identify where do we have axon and where do we have dendrites, you can just tell me those are neuronal processes. And see these little blue dots over here, those are supporting cells. They called glia or neuroglia. Those are supporting cells surrounding neurons. Okay, so that's a nervous tissue. Let's see, remove all this stuff. Next slide, skeletal muscles. So skeletal muscles, we have this tube-like structure. See, like that's a tube. That's one cell. Here's underneath it we have another cell. Now you see this parts, those are nuclei, and also you see the striation. So here's our striation. So skeletal muscles, tube shape, multinucleated, striated, and they are voluntary. And what you see in between are actually some connective tissue. Cardiac muscles. Well, our cardiac muscles look very dark, but what you can see this structure over here, or over here, this is intercalated disc. So here we have intercalated disc. Also, you can see that cells kind of branch. Like let's see over here. See, they're not tube-like. They do have some branches, and they are striated. So here we have striations. And uninucleated, one nucleus per cell. So cardiac muscles found only in the walls of the heart. Smooth muscles, well, smooth muscle look a lot like dense regular connective tissue, but the difference is you will see way more cells, because now everything that you see are actually cells that are pretty close to one another, like this one, and they like a spindle-like this. So you will see lots of these dark dots that are nuclei, because that's my cell. Here's a whole cell with the nucleus inside, and here's another cell and another cell. So we don't have that much of extracellular matrix here at all. So those are smooth muscles. They do not have any striations. They spindle shape, and they're uninucleated.